Kishimoto can't write female characters. This is an absolutely archaic take, and it comes largely in part from the more important females in Naruto, Sakura and Hinata, being extremely hit or miss with fans, while ignoring the larger female cast like Konan, Tsunade, Kushina, and even Granny Chiyo. All of them have extremely decent or well-written stories that just so happen to take up a short portion of Naruto's 700 chapters, so they don't really get considered in the conversation. I mean, to be fair, Granny Chiyo is only in the manga for close to 30 chapters, from chapter 252 to chapter 279 when she dies, but within those chapters she has a great character arc that I plan to talk about in the future. I made a video hating Sakura or whatever, and the comments in response to that video at large gave me an idea for something that I'm calling the Hinata Fallacy. The Hinata Fallacy can change definitions depending on what side you take in the debate, which makes it kind of special. If you were to sit and observe a group of Sakura stans or watch them defend hate on Sakura, you are very likely to hear one or multiple of them throw a line at you that sounds something like, "How could you hate Sakura when Hinata is way worse?" This line can obviously change depending on context, but it will generally all be the same. Then on the flip side, you have people who praise Hinata and Sakura's stead. I'm sure we've all heard the cringy lines like, "I'm looking for my Hinata in this world full of Sakuras," or other cringy things that center around something like this. The overall point here is that Hinata is used as some point of comparison for both sides, when she shouldn't be, because she also just kinda sucks. You put Sakura and Hinata up against each other in a character contest and it's really just a gigantic mid-off. Last thing I want to do before getting started with the video is define what a fallacy actually is, considering I know a lot of you don't know and it's going to be needed for the video to be understood. A fallacy, as defined by Oxford Languages, has three different definitions: a mistaken belief, especially based on an unsound argument; a failure in reasoning, which renders an argument invalid; and faulty reasoning, misleading, or an unsound argument. Any one of these definitions can realistically fit what we're talking about here, but let me give you an example of a fairly simple fallacy to understand, and it's also one of my favorites, that being the argument from ignorance or appeal to ignorance fallacy. This fallacy you probably run into all the time and just don't even know it. The fallacy occurs when someone claims their argument is true based on a lack of evidence that it is not true. Let me give you a fairly simple example of this. Sasuke can do the Rasen Shuriken because we've not been shown that Sasuke can't do the Rasen Shuriken. This reasoning is faulty because the argument can be flipped around with the exact same amount of evidence, effectively canceling out the claim, which would be Sasuke can't do the Rasen Shuriken because we've never seen that Sasuke can do the Rasen Shuriken. Both of these are examples of an argument from ignorance, and regardless of if Sasuke could do a Rasen Shuriken or not, the reasoning both these arguments give doesn't help either side. This is one of the few reasons you should show evidence or rationale when making a claim. Anyway, this intro has been long-winded enough. Sorry, I needed to explain a lot before continuing on with the video, but just asking for one last thing before we get started, which is that you like the video and subscribe to the channel, since it helps the channel out a lot. But let's get started with Hinata versus Pain. This fight gets a lot of praise for, I think, a couple of reasons. For one, the fight is pretty visually pleasing to look at when watching the anime, which most of us did upon our first viewing of the Naruto franchise, and this fight doesn't have any glaring power scaling issues that other fights in Naruto have, so the performance is very believable from the characters participating in it. If you watch the anime of this, Hinata only lands one hit on Tendo Pain's body because Nagato starts coughing and left the body unattended momentarily. The moment lasts just long enough that you get the feeling Hinata might even be able to free Naruto of the restraints placed on him by Pain before Pain hits her with another Shinra Tensei that's the biggest one we've seen so far, and it's unclear if she'll even get up from it. I'll touch back up more on this fight in a minute because I want to mention the last reason I think this fight is held in such high regard, and that is that it's placed in the middle of one of the series' most popular arcs. Literally everyone and their mom likes the Pain arc and can see the value it has for what it is. The Hinata versus Pain fight in the manga takes place on chapter 437 called Confessions, and this is one of the few times I think the anime outdoes the manga in every way, shape, and form. This fight does not feature Hinata trying to free Naruto of the rods in his skin. She just attacks Pain and gets instantly no-death by a Shinra Tensei. That being said, considering I only covered Sakura's actions from the manga, I have to be fair here and do the same thing for Hinata, and this fight is just a complete pathetic display from Hinata. The lack of removing the rods from Naruto and Hinata mentioning she doesn't mind dying make this come off like a complete suicide mission because she knows she can't beat Pain. Naruto knows it, Pain knows it, and we, the audience, knows it. It makes Hinata come off like an idiot rather than heroic in any way because, yeah, while in the anime it's pretty clear she won't get to free Naruto, it's a much more believable goal than taking out Pain at this point in the story. I haven't gone as far as calling Hinata useless here because her sacrifice serves the purpose of pushing Naruto to the boiling point in terms of anger and allowing him to release 4 tails to break Pain's restraints and then 6 tails after that. But allow me to be genuine here, I don't think I should count someone's sacrifice as a use, especially when that sacrifice did not come as a direct result of that person's intention. If I had to compare this to somebody, it would be Jiraiya. I think that that's the most logical thing to do considering he also sacrificed his life to help bring down Pain. Jiraiya's sacrifice came as a direct result of his intent to figure out Pain's secret and take him down. He died so that everyone else could live and hopefully beat Pain. Then you have someone like Kakashi who also fought Pain and died under similar circumstances whilst trying to save Choji from an incoming missile by the Asura path. It was a split-second decision that allowed Choji not only to live, but to give a vital piece of information about Tendo's abilities to Tsunade and by extension the rest of the Leaf Village. This is not only expected of a ninja with his caliber of intelligence, it's just an honorable thing that makes Kakashi even more likable than he already was. Like I said, the anime gives Hinata a bit more of a realistic goal here, but I'm going to show you on screen the entire fight between them in the manga. As you can see, it is only 1 page long. Anyway, I think I've talked about this long enough. I think I've gotten my general point across on that. Now, where the Hinata fallacy comes in this controversy is with Sakura in this arc as well. All Sakura did was sit by and cry for Naruto. She's useless. Meanwhile, Hinata does nothing leading up to Pain while Sakura is fighting off the Animal Path summons. I mean this, by the way. Pain's assault prior to Naruto showing up covers from chapter 419 to 430. And in these chapters, Hinata is shown doing nothing to help out against the assault while Sakura saves on panel a minimum of 3 people. Konohamaru, Sakura, Choji, and Choza all do more than Hinata here to help against Pain. That's without mentioning the more popular characters you'd expect to do something like Kakashi and Tsunade. I get that personally Hinata is not anywhere near as annoying as Sakura is and she's not as in your face, but to make a fairly bold claim here, I think if Hinata and Sakura were given a similar amount of screen time, Hinata would be just as disliked or more disliked than Sakura, because a character like Hinata only works when giving the audience very little to go off of. Now, in fairness to Hinata, just like I did with Sakura, I want to bring up the positives of her character, and the first one is that her relationship with Naruto is pretty adorable. I specifically like the moments that they have together in the war arc and the end of the last movie. When Obito kills a bunch of the members of the Shinobi Alliance, and it seems like maybe, just maybe, he'll finally get Naruto to break, it's nice to see that Hinata is able to prevent that from happening, the same way I think Rin would have been able to prevent Obito from ever breaking if she hadn't met her demise. It's a nice parallel between the two focused characters of the arc at the time, and it's one that I think holds up to multiple viewings of the show or rereads of the manga, enough so that I think Hinata deserves her praise for it. It's also pretty cool that the scene is just sort of Hinata reminding Naruto who he is, since she got her ninja way from him. The scenes that follow from this, where Hinata is holding Naruto's hand and talking about how strong and comforting it is, really make this even better than it already was in my eyes, and it doesn't hurt to mention that she is this calm and collected on the battlefield after someone close to her, that being her cousin Neji, had just died. I also enjoy the scene of her giving Naruto the healing ointment, not for any super specific reason, I just thought it was pretty cool. Hinata also has pretty entertaining fights. Her fight with Neji is the first one that comes to mind, and while I do think the majority of this fight's entertainment came from Neji, Hinata was definitely not slacking. This one panel where she's coming at Neji and Neji's just deflecting her attacks is pretty cool, and it's followed by Hinata finding a way through his defense and landing a hit on him. This is also when we get a fairly massive info dump on the Gentle Fist and the Byakugan, which are both really cool powers that I wish got touched on more. The next one isn't really a fight, but Hinata was able to blow back a Ten Tails hand with an air palm after being amped up by Kurama's chakra, and that was just pretty cool. This scene where she learns the Gentle Fist is also pretty well put together, and it gives her a real sense of belonging since every member of the Konoha 12 with the exception of Sai is knocking down Jubi clones, so it really makes it feel like Hinata can stand with the rest of them. Now we get to the war arc, and this is when the Hinata Fallacy is at its strongest, just like it was back in the pain arc we went over earlier. So before getting to this section, I'm going to list everything that both Hinata and Sakura did in this arc. Hinata talks to Naruto and calms him down post Neji death. She blows back a Jubi hand with an air palm. Prior to Neji's death, she was deflecting wood spikes coming at Naruto. She popped Naruto's shoulder back into place using the Gentle Fist so he could throw his Rasen Shuriken, and she learns how to do the 8 trigram 64 palm technique. She's also included in the gigantic massive Rasengan barrage on Jubito, and that's pretty much the extent of her participation in this arc aside from minor things here and there earlier. Sakura in this arc figured out how the Neji clone was a fake and beat the Zetsu. She healed everyone, like literally everyone. She was always healing. When the 3-way deadlock is revived, Sakura's part in it is literally just healing everyone with Lady Katsuyu clones. Sakura doesn't take part in the massive Rasengan barrage herself, but that's because she's preoccupied healing everyone again, so I wouldn't count it against her or anything like that. Sakura was obviously a fairly big help in the fight against Kaguya, helping Obito with chakra and giving him some when he needed it, and landing the final hit on Kaguya that moved her down to Naruto and Sasuke's palm. Now, after everything I just listed, can we be serious here for just a second? Hinata has a fairly useful feat bringing Naruto back after Obito and popping his shoulder back into place, but are we really gonna act like any of that is comparable to all the things Sakura did in the arc, man? Like, come on. Sakura's trash, and I gave her a ton of flack in my video, but in that video, I did not once ever call her useless. You know why? It's simply not a valid criticism. At this point, I love it for the memes, but be real with yourself. Sakura has tons more use than Hinata, especially in the war arc. Now, I won't be disingenuous, of course. I think the main problem with Sakura's seeming uselessness is the fact that she's supposed to be a main character, which is valid. You should want your main characters to be useful, but as I've just gone over, Sakura has use. I think this is more of a writing issue than a fan issue, though to be fair, because Sakura is useful at very far away and nuanced points in the story. And what I mean by that is that Sakura being useful in the war arc is too late for people to start paying attention to her. It should have been way more apparent way quicker. A common take I hear is that Sakura was gearing up to be one of the most useful people in part 2 during the Kazekage rescue arc, and then she simply just dropped the ball. And I have to agree, but it shouldn't have been that way. I mean, think of all the things she did in that arc. She figured out a counter to Sasori's poison. She figured out how to fight Sasori after fighting a long grainy Chiyo. She broke the giant boulder to the Akatsuki hideout. Sakura was on it in that arc, and then she just completely lost it. Anyway, the Hinata Fallacy here at this point is calling Sakura useless, but not calling Hinata useless for the same minimal things she did in the arc. We can move on to the last now, but I don't really have a lot to say about this movie. People hate the damsel in distress thing that Hinata has going, but I don't really mind it since every scene where it happens has heavy context. In the first scene, she's getting rescued by Naruto. She had her chakra turned off, so she couldn't do anything. The second time, she's getting her mind controlled, so that's no big deal. And then after this, I think she has more than a redemption whenever she helps Naruto by herself take down Toneri for good. Last but not least, Boruto. In the manga, her role is fairly minimal, and same with Sakura, they both really only get active in the Momoshiki arc for brief periods of time. Hinata gets beaten down by Momoshiki and Kinshiki off screen, and Sakura saves a bunch of people. I guess I'll give my summary on this whole thing because the next time I talk about women that Kishimoto wrote, it will be the ones that I mostly only enjoy and think deserve more credit. Hinata is by no means a character that I hate. I just more or less think she can be kinda stupid at times. I just got really tired of her constantly being praised for virtually the same reasons people don't like Sakura, or the Sakura fans being like, oh my god, Hinata is way worse. I don't think Hinata is a way worse character than Sakura, especially due to all the abusive behavior that Sakura tends to just let slide that sends a bad message in general. I recognize not everyone would have the same problem with Sakura, and I put this as text on my last video that was pertaining to her, since by the time someone had told me the video was already recorded, but I may have a stronger reaction to Sakura just letting abuse slide because of things I've seen women in my family and personal life deal with, and I don't think letting the guy or woman slide, whoever the abuser is the right thing to do, and I don't think that it ever ends well. That there's light at the end of the tunnel for your abuser really just gets under my skin, but again, that's just me. So all said and done, Hinata is just on the lower tier, still one tier above Sakura for me, but neither of them are touching Kushina or Tsunade when it comes to being good characters and characters that I enjoy on screen. But that's pretty much it. If you like the video, obviously leave a like and subscribe to the channel. If you like analysis like this, then I have more coming, like the Tsunade and Kushina video I just mentioned, but other than that, have a nice day.